Hey AP guys, this is a quick video to give you some tips and strategies on multiple choice questions. You're practicing multiple choice questions on the AP classroom and all of that sort of stuff. So I just want to scaffold your attempts with some of these tips and strategies as we talk through this. Just a quick overview. If you're not taking the test, means a little bit less to you, but we want to look at the whole test. The AP exam in May is 3 hours of fun and excitement. And you can kind of visualize here the multiple choice questions, the MCQs. That's a really big chunk of the text of the exam. So it's for 50 minutes. You're plowing through things, and then those other rectangles there, analysis, argument, and synthesis, are the essays that you're writing. But the multiple choice questions, in terms of your aggregate score, are 45%. And so you need to pay attention to them. You need to do well on them. You can't just skip that part, even if you're an excellent writer. Um, you need to, kind of be practicing those and do your best on the multiple choice section. So this is kind of in relation to the rest of the test. So this is what it might look like. This is an older version. In the last couple of years, they have been kind of shortening the passages, but what you can see here on the left side of the page is where this starts, right here where it says questions 22 through 33. Read the following passage carefully. And so, you've got a passage. And again, some of them are more like a paragraph long, or maybe half the length of what you see here nowadays. They're a slight bit shorter. But I think you guys know the format. There's the reading, and then there are the questions there. And you see questions at least 23 through 27 there on the right-hand side of the page. So just a refresher visually, this is what we're talking about. You read and you answer questions. You read and you answer questions. So this is the kind of the breakdown. There are two pieces of this pie here. You need to be focusing and practicing the old-fashioned rhetorical analysis questions, and those are close reading of the text, and then you have to ask questions about how the author or the speaker is strategically using language to accomplish a purpose. And it might be a whole text question about overall purpose, or it might be like, hey, in this sentence, or in this line even, or something like that. What is meant by this phrase, or very specific line by line questions. And then there's also these composition questions, which is the second type. And composition question types, slightly newer. It's only been a couple years now, and you have practiced these as well on AP Classroom. But these are the ones that something might feel a little out of order. You have these kind of pieces of writing up at the top. You're still reading and then answering questions, but the questions are asking you to think like a writer, right? And to modify sentences, to insert sentences, to rephrase things. What would be the best to accomplish the purpose that the author is trying to accomplish here with the given written task. So two types. I think that's pretty straightforward. Here's where I hope that you find some value, and perhaps there are surprises here, perhaps not. But here's how I teach people to go through the AP style multiple choice questions. Read the passage through before you even look at the questions. What? No, you're not supposed to do that, Mr. Mac. Well, you are for an AP test, and I think I'll make that clear here in a minute. But let's keep moving. The reason why you want to read the passage first before you answer questions about the passage, or before you read the questions of the passage first, is because you want to get the overall gist of this type of passage. And some AP style questions are designed to fend off our natural tendency to just read the questions first and then cherry pick different lines and say, "Oop, there's the answer," as we read through. So again, I hope to make that a little clearer in a second, but you want to know the gist of the passage and the overall argument that's being made before you really get into the specifics and the weeds. So that's what next bullet point, I probably hit it too early, but then you're going to look, after you understand the whole, you want to start looking at the parts. After you see the forest, you need to start picking apart the trees. And that's really where it makes sense to go back and forth between the question set and the text itself. And, the questions do a decent job of directing you to, in the second paragraph, the first line of the second paragraph, or sometimes it will actually re-quote a specific moment. Not always. A lot of times you got to kind of flip back to the whole text. but sometimes, there's the quote in this moment of the text. So it will give you some direction there, and you need to remain flexible. Of course, this is uh, not except always a little cut off there, but watch for that sort of exclusive language. It's always the case with these type of higher level multiple choice questions. Um, and here is an important thing here as we get to timing and test strategies in terms of timing. You want to skip the difficult questions and then come back to them. So if you have time, of course. So it does not help you to sink 15 minutes on one question just to make sure you absolutely get it right and perfect your answer. So if you're encountering a stumper and you have tried your hardest or you can't eliminate any answers or anything like that, go ahead and move on to the next question, and you can mark it and return back to it. That's that two pass approach. So you go through, hopefully you get through all the easy questions, you locate them, and you can do that through the whole multiple choice section, or you can choose the two pass approach, like in this one passage and its question set, right? You could do one passage and question set, two pass approach. I'm going to go through, get the easy ones first, circle back. Do I have time for some of these hard ones? Maybe yes, maybe no. Then I'm going to move on to the next passage and associated questions. You can do it that way, or you can do it through the whole multiple choice question, the whole block of questions, and do a two pass approach that way. It's kind of up to you, and this is why we practice, is so you get a feel for what really works for you and what your strengths are and what feels more natural for you. Hey, can't emphasize this one enough. It's a no-brainer, but use process of elimination. A lot of the problem with these AP style multiple choice questions is that multiple questions, there might be two that really look pretty good. And maybe even there's a lot of correctness in two of the answers. But the point here to press into is, and this is, a source of understandable frustration, which one is best? Okay, which answer, is it B or is it D? Which one is absolutely best? And so there are times when, we are frustrated by two seemingly equal right answers or something like that. But that's where you come in as a close reader, as an understander of rhetoric. Oh boy, you have to put your thinking cap on and make some judgment calls sometimes based on the author's purpose that you might discern, or the argumentative structure, or what might seem in place or out of place, or better or worse. So anyway, you're gonna have to use your judgment sometimes, but process of elimination always is going to help. Okay, process of elimination. If you're just totally stumped on a question, it is often a temptation for students to just, okay, well, I'm just going to mark C every time or something like that. If you have the time and the mental space, which you can cultivate this as you practice so that it becomes second nature. There are maybe some contenders for correct answers. There are contenders for absolutely wrong. Like, these are stupid answers. Stupid maybe is a hyperbolic, but there are often answers that are clearly wrong that you can eliminate. So if you're always marking C, well, maybe double check and be sure that C is not a nonsense answer or clearly wrong. Do your best to eliminate a couple answers, just so that when you do have to guess, you can increase your odds mathematically of guessing, intelligently. So if you can narrow it down to two answers, and you're always guessing between two answers, well, you have a 50-50 chance of getting, just even I'm stumped by this, I'm just going to choose one of the two. You have a 50-50 chance. That's way better odds if you had to guess on, say, like 5 to 10, that were you just totally stumped on. Then if you're just, 25% odds, I'm not even going to look at these answers because it's too hard. See if you can eliminate wrong answers. And that will also narrow your focus and help perhaps with some overwhelm on some particular questions. But it also, just mathematically, if you get to the point where you have to guess, and remember, you're not penalized for wrong answers, so it's always good to fill everything up. If you have to guess intelligently by using the process of elimination. Anyway, it's just, you should have that embedded in your muscle memory. Always use process of elimination. All right. So back to kind of why we want to read the whole text, because this is the one that students always challenge me on. And really, at the end of the day, you as a test taker need to take some practice tests and figure out what you're most comfortable with. But the experts and myself would always caution you against this propensity, which we're used to it as learners, of reading the questions first, so then I can go back and kind of mine the passage for the answers to those questions. That is seems to be common sense. That seems to make uh, a lot of sense, and that seems like a good strategy. But for AP style questions, it's really important to read the question fresh without any like preconceived notions that can be sort of formed in your mind by reading the questions first. So you need to get a sense of the whole picture. And that's what's unique about these AP style questions is that some of them, yes, are very specific to a given line or some, this moment or this passage. But the whole picture is something that you're going to have at least a couple questions on. And if you have not, like, kind of with fresh eyes, encountered this passage from top to bottom and understand where it's going and understand perhaps shifts in the tone or the rhetoric or something like that, if you're just trying to, you know, start with a question that might be very leading, and I'm sorry to say it might be misleading the way that the AP people write these things. Um, and you're just going to go back to the left hand side of the page, so to speak, and mine that passage for the right answer, you might be missing the forest through the trees. Okay, so it is important to do this first, and then after you've read the passage as a whole, you've wrapped your head around it as a close reader, you get the overall gist, you get the basic argument, you get the the top to bottom sort of movement that's happening. Then you can go in, read the questions, and look. You kind of switch modes, okay? And then you get into the nitty gritty, and you go back and forth between the question and the text, and the question and the text, etc. So I don't know. You might argue with me on that. My advice is always going to be read the text first, then read the questions. Even though I understand why that's and that may not be a good way to spend your time on other types of multiple choice tests that you've taken in the past. Whatever, go with the read the questions, then read the text. Not with I would encourage you not to do that with the AP test because of the whole question types, whole text type questions. So anyway, uh, lots of thoughts, lots of specific strategies. Of course, there are more that you can find in certain books and Barron's or something like that, like this. But these are the ones that seem to have the most bang for their buck. And these are the things that you need to keep in mind as you practice, as you do those things on AP Classroom. I hope this has got at least a quick takeaway or two for you. Thanks for watching.